I'm Freddie Carr. I'm a sailor slash cyclor with INEOS Britannia, and we're here in Barcelona. So my journey in the America's Cup is, first of all, I've been extremely lucky, and I recognise that. I won the Youth Match Racing Worlds in Auckland in 1999, so last century, which makes me feel incredibly old. And around that time, a British syndicate for the America's Cup was starting, GBR Challenge, under Sir Peter Harrison, and an incredible group of British yachtsmen that had come out of match racing and Admiral's Cup scenes. And this great group of guys were going to go and challenge for the America's Cup in Auckland in 2003. And I went and knocked on Ian Walker's door, who was then the skipper of that syndicate, and said, "Ian, this is what I've done. I don't want to sail, I just want to come and be around your group and learn." And I sort of started out in the sail loft, sweeping the floors, bilging out the boats. I guess you'd say I was like a proper nipper back in the day. Probably wouldn't get away with the kind of working environment that I used to work in nowadays with HR and that side of stuff, but it was great fun working with really good guys. And that was my foot into the door of America's Cup. And then was lucky enough to go to Victory Challenge in Sweden in 2007. Then there was obviously the Deed of Gift in 2010. Joined Luna Rossa when we started going foiling in 2013. And for the last decade, I've been lucky enough to sail with Ben and for the country. And this is our third run as it with this syndicate, and obviously second time with the backing of INEOS. To tie it back to Harken, obviously in 2001 I did the America's Cup Jubilee on a version 4 IAC CE class boat with a huge 1111 winch, and this thing just blew my mind. And back then you had 17 guys on a boat that had to be completely dialed in to get this 25-ton monster around the race course and be perfectly in sync to do boat manoeuvres. And here we are 23 years later, and there's 8 of us going 50+ knots, cycling on board to power a hydraulic system without winches, you know. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, I'm a huge sports fan. I'll watch any sport, but I can't think of another sport that's been through the journey that sailing, and specifically America's Cup racing, has done in the last 20 years. And for me, I've done all of that journey with Harken, which has been fun as well. When the rule change came around from the 36th Cup in Auckland in 2001, and in my world, the biggest rule change was you can power the boat in any way you want. It wasn't limited to your upper body. So there was a whole group of sailors that had to think about where they were going to go with themselves and change their upper body power to lower body power. It's been quite a fun transition, I must say. Like, being out on the open roads with your friends, and for us in particular, obviously backed by Jim and INEOS. He owns the INEOS Grenadiers, so we automatically had that affiliation with them. But it's still moving hydraulics, and we are now in our third design development with you guys at Harken. And in all 3 of those iterations, be it the Bermuda Cup, be it the Cup in Auckland in 2021 and the Cup we're going to see here, we're the only team that's been driving into hydraulics the whole time. We kind of led that in Bermuda. We're the only team with a fully hydraulic system, whereas everyone else was still clutching into a winch. Last time round, we used Harken components with the clutching system that you guys developed to develop the single direction drivetrain, and we were incredibly proud of that. That was the thing in our mind that allowed us to go power the boat with 5 people, not 8. And this time round, as you well know, we're doing some really nice stuff with the hydraulic actuation, and the components and the pieces that we get out of Harken are as good as I've ever seen. They're works of art, they're stunning.